right, so we're here in Montenegro in Kotor Bay. Absolutely beautiful. Just stopped raining, so I thought I'd do the video on Yoshi Refit. So Yoshi, as you know, was on the hard stand for 4 months. And today we're going to talk about everything that went on under the waterline, what we did to the engines, and everything else that's happened on the boat so far in terms of upgrading and fixing things. So let's jump in. There's quite a few slides. I've tried to put some photos in there where I can to show you the before and after. So we'll talk about what we did, how it was done, who did it, give you some ideas of the costings, lessons we've learned, and then what's on our to-do list moving forward. So jumping straight in. As you can see from the photo on the top right, when we took the boat out the water, the anti-foul was horrible. All right, it was all coming off, and it was recommended to sand it right back and start from the beginning. So that's what we did. All right, we sanded it back, did some fairing, which is patching up little holes. Then we added 5 coats of primer, 2 coats of anti-foul, using International Gel Shield. All right, and that whole lot cost about 16,500 euros to do. I wasn't expecting it to be that high, but I think in the end they did a good job, and hopefully it'll last a year or two before I just need to probably recoat 1 coat, not 5 or 6 coats. So that was the anti-foul. We also replaced the through-hull fittings. So I went for a bronze through-hull fittings. All right, as you can see here, before they were in dire need of replacement. That before photo was probably a good one. All right, so afterwards they look absolutely fantastic. I was not compromising here. I want the best. This stops the boat from sinking. All right, so we used this brand from Italy. Took them about 100 hours apparently to do. They did 17 in total, 10 above the water, 10 below the waterline and 7 above the waterline, replaced the hoses. And this was about 11,000 euros to get done. All right, but again, no compromise. I wanted the best fittings here, which were expensive, but should last for a long time and not fail on me. So that was the through-hull fittings. The stuffing boxes, 6,000 euros. I put 2 of perhaps the best or better ones on, which are Shaft Seal Pro. So they dismantled everything and installed the new ones and then redid the alignment. All right, and you can see here, I don't have the photo from before, but you can see here what they look like. The bottom left photo is it installed. All right, again, somewhere where water can come through, no compromise. I wanted something really good here. All right, expensive, probably a little bit too expensive, but it's done. Didn't have much choice. So, number of other extras that were included when we're in the shipyard. Obviously, we had to pay for the boat to be on the dry dock for 4 months. They charged for the crane service to lift the boat out the water and put it back in, which is very expensive for such a short duration of being on a crane. Underwater lights I'll talk about in a minute, but they filled in where the old ones were. Fixed some minor gel coat issues in 2 or 3 places around the boat. They did some measurements on the standing rigging, running rigging, which I asked for, but didn't realize how expensive that was going to be. It was close to 1,000 euros to do the standing rigging measurements. All right, they measured everything, so I've got all of that documented for when I need to change the rigging, which is coming up very soon. When the boat came out the water, they did the flushing of the engines for winter, not something I asked for, but they did. They helped organize to get the sails washed, and you can see here, absolutely filthy beforehand. Probably had never been done. Afterwards, they're looking quite good. I haven't got the mainsail up yet, That's going to take a bit of work to get up. We just got the new sail bag for it, but lots of scrubbing on that. And the sail washing was very expensive. Could have done it myself, but didn't have the time, didn't have the space. It was winter, and it was very hard to do myself, right? It needs to be on a nice, clean surface, which we just didn't have, and they're very big sails. So that was 1,700 euros, I think, to get the sails washed. And then platform rental for polishing. So we brought someone else in to get the polishing of the boat done, and the boatyard wanted to rent the platform, which they move around on, to be able to get up on the sides, and also take their cut, and that was expensive. That was 1,200 euros actually for that. But again, I didn't have a choice. The boat's in a shipyard. I wanted to get it polished. Yeah, no choice. Wasn't too happy about it, but no choice. When the boat came out of the water, the propellers needed to be cleaned. And then when we cleaned them, unfortunately, there was a little rattle in them that couldn't be fixed. We did try, so we had to buy some new propellers. So I got FlexiFold propellers. They look absolutely fantastic, as you can see from the top right of the photo. And they're quite large. So we were motoring the other day, and you get some really good performance out of it. At low RPMs, we're getting some really good speeds. I think at 1,000 to 1,200 RPM, I'm getting over 7 knots. All right, and this engine goes up to 2,500, 3,000 RPM. So they were the FlexiFold propellers, 7,500 euros. Obviously, you need 2 of them. Underwater lights. I bought new lights because, again, underwater, if they fail, they can potentially sink the boat. And the old ones had big holes, 2.5-inch holes, massive. So took those out, filled them up, and then we got these new Helimarine lights with just the cable coming through to the light. All right, you can't change the bulb without taking the boat out of the water and changing the whole thing, but hopefully they last. And you've only got a very small hole now in the water that obviously we put Sikaflex in that shouldn't leak. All right, lights weren't too expensive, 700 euros for 2. I picked those up at the boat show in Dusseldorf. Bit of wiring needed, and to fill in the old holes, do the fiberglassing work was, again, expensive, 1,000 euros. But it's done. So the only other part that didn't need changing, but I did, was to change the transducer. And that was more of a mental thing in my mind, that I've changed everything else, and I did not want the transducer to 1, 2, 3 months time leak on me. So I decided for 500 euros, I've changed everything else on the boat. I'm just going to change the transducer. All right. Again, the old one was working fine. Now I have a spare. So now I have a brand new transducer for 500 euros. That was one of the simpler things to do in terms of changing. The wiring for it back up to the NEMA 2000 bus was a little bit hard. It took a couple of hours to rewire it, but again, fairly simple compared to some of the other jobs. I put Dambeline paint on the washboards. All right, as you can see, they were in a little bit of a state beforehand. And my son and I polished the ladder with some, we sanded the ladder, I should say, and then put some nice coating over the top of the wood to protect it from the water and algae and things like that. So that was fairly cheap, like 75 euros, 100 euros, something like that for the wood varnish and Dambeline paint. Took a while, all right, it kept raining, so I had to keep covering it. I think I put 3 or 4 coats on in the end, but that should last a long time. Rudders. So we changed the rudder bearings, rudder cushions, put new hoses on, all of the hydraulics. We've got hydraulic steering. 7,500 euros. Expensive. All right, but again, something you can't do when the boat's in the water. All right, it needed to be done. I bit the bullet, put some new bearings and cushions and things on, as you can see here. So the rudders are fantastic now. However, there is a new problem with the pump at the hydraulic pump where you steer, just behind there. It's clicking, so I need to look at that when I get some time. So another 7,000 euros. Engines. So the engines had only done 2,100 hours, but they were, or are 12 years old. So we did quite a lot of work on the engines, about 30,000 euros worth of work on them. The most expensive thing, and I still have sleepless nights on this, were the engine mounts. So I needed 8 of them. So these hold the engine up, similar to car mounts for your engine. And they were 820 euros each. But we changed them, they're done, for some rubber and a piece of metal. Exorbitant pricing. And that doesn't include the labor to change it too, by the way. We put some fuel water separators on, Racor ones, some really good ones. I've got a photo, I think, on the next page on that one we'll have a look at. Rudder pistons, rudder bearings. We took the transmission out, cleaned all that up, redid the exhaust systems, and refurbished the alternators. And you can see here the alternators on the top left, what it looked like before and now afterwards. We didn't change them, just cleaned them all up inside and out. This is the new fuel filter. The coupling bearing, we needed to replace this. We changed all of the pumps, actually, the raw water pumps. And you can see here, look, the pumps before and afterwards. All right. The strainers, we changed those to some new nice bronze strainers. Put some new lights in the engine room so that when you go in there, you can actually see what's happening, what's leaking, what problems are, which look fantastic. So we now have 3 on each engine room. And the hot water heater was leaking. So we needed to change that. That was about 1,000 euros, including installation. Still waiting for that to come. So we've only got the port side hot water at the moment. So anything on the starboard side is cold until we can do that. They are more expensive than household hot water systems because they plug into the engine. So when the engine runs, you can get hot water into the tank. It goes through the engine. Or if you're not running the engine, you can run it off the 230 volt system, which I need to run the generator for. So lots of work in the engine room. It's looking really nice now. We've painted it with Dumbeline paint. Fingers crossed, no issues on the engines. We also changed the 4 bilge pumps on the boat. Again, they're like a critical piece of safety equipment on the boat. If water does get in, that sucks it and kicks it out. So we put, I think, 2,000 gallons an hour pumps in. So 4 of those on the boat. So all in all, about 30,000 euros there. The water maker worked fine. We got it serviced and had a huge problem trying to get filters. So the top right, you can see the old filter system. I looked online and the filters were about 150, 200 US dollars each. And I needed 2, and you have to replace them very frequently. So cut a long story short, we changed the whole filter system to this new one where you can get filters a lot easier. They're significantly cheaper, the filters. I hear about 10 or 15 euros each. So we've got 2, one's a 5 micron and one's 20, 25 microns for cleaning everything out. And we serviced the AC and heating system too. So that was 1,000 euros, all working fine, which is great news. So all in all, engines, underwater stuff, about 100,000 euros. Was not expecting that. Trust me, I was expecting a lot less. But it is what it is, and should last many, many years to come, with some happy motoring and happy sailing. So now let's look about what we did on all the other sections of the boat. So we did a lot of work on other parts of the boat. We restitched the trampoline. So the trampoline looked a little bit old, All right, the stitching around the outside, the rope where it holds on, needed to be replaced. So we did that as a family, got my daughter to help, as you can see in the photo there. We actually flipped the trampoline over the other side and it was white, all right, but it hadn't got any of the sun on it. So they're looking 80% new. Put some new Marlow 4mm rope on there, and took a while because it was raining all the time, but we got it done for about 270 euros. The Marlow rope was the expensive thing there, and our time. We measured the anchor. We have 100 meters of stainless steel chain, which is great. We have anchor measurements on the boat, so I can see from the helm how much is coming in and how much is going out. But I also bought these anchor markers from Anchorite. All right, you see that green thing in the photo, and I put those at 10, 20, 30 meters, more for the person who's at the front with the control to see how much is coming up and coming down. And if for whatever reason the electrical side fails, we know how much anchor we've got out, which is important and allows me to sleep well at night. And I also changed the anchor bridle. All right, so that's the two ropes that go on either side, the port side and starboard side, and take all the strain of the anchor when we're at anchor. So I changed that. Polishing and stickers. All right, the polishing took the guys 4 or 5 days to polish the outside of the hull because it kept raining. 2,650 euros. They had to take the old stickers off. The old stickers didn't come off very easily. And in the end, I had to help with my wife, Serene, to take the old stickers off using a heat gun and a lot of patience and a lot of time. But we did put some nice stickers on. All right, and you can see the new design there. We've got a Yoshi sign at the back. And we've got some waves and some stickers, and then Yoshi on the side, on the port and starboard side. So 5,000, just over 5,000 euros for that. Safety equipment, fire extinguishers. We found this company called Eco Fire Technology that do eco fire extinguishers. All right, so ecologically friendly. We got 7 of those for the bedrooms, the kitchen, the cockpit and lounge of different sizes. And these ones were very special because they work on multiple different types of fire. Most of the time you only get them that work on A, B, C type fires. All right, but these ones also do D, F and lithium fires. We don't have lithium on board, but a more comprehensive fire extinguisher. And if you fire it at electrics, it doesn't ruin the electrics like many of them will. So we thought these were a really good buy at 400 euros. They dropped them off. Regular ones would have probably cost 250, 300 anyway. So we got fire extinguishers. Unfortunately, we needed to buy a new tender engine. So when we were putting the tender back, we lifted it up about 2 foot off the ground, all right, on the dry dock, and one of the holding hooks snapped and it fell and it broke the engine, basically. It snapped the drive shaft that goes through. Didn't realize that till we put the boat back in the water and started it up and couldn't go into gear. So it would have required, to get to that drive shaft, taking the whole engine apart, getting the new replacement part, which would have been very hard, and then putting it all back together. And we wouldn't have been able to go to anchor without a tender because we couldn't get around anywhere. So we decided to bite the bullet, spend 2,500 euros and get the new 20 horsepower engine. In the future, we are looking at replacing the whole tender anyway. So it's kind of a get us by for 6 or 12 months until we get a new tender. And I'll try and sell the old one as parts to someone because the Yamaha are very expensive engines. These new are about 7,500 euros. So that was an unfortunate event, but we got a new engine and it's working well. I sanded all the teak. That I thought was going to take about half a day and ended up taking 3 days. The teak in some places wasn't flat, so I couldn't use the electric sander and had to hand sand it. But it's looking really nice now. And we're contemplating whether we put like a teak wonder, teak oil or something on there or not. For the moment, we've left it just plain teak and we'll wash and scrub it and see see if we want to put anything on in the future. You read different reports, it's good, it's bad, so we've left it for now. Electrical side, I've touched on this in some of my other videos. We put a new fridge in, TV, unfortunately the old TV was broken, new washer dryer, new oven, which is now electric. All of this was about 3,500, 4,000 euros, somewhere around there. Again, some things you can only do on the dry dock are very hard at a marina. The fridge, for example, was very hard to get in and out. The oven, interesting story there, put the new oven in and it kept tripping the fuse. And we were wondering why, and then we looked at the amperage of the oven and it's about 3,300 watts when it's going, and quite a high amperage. So we needed to rewire that with a thicker cable and a higher amp fuse. That took a bit of time, but that's all done now and working well. Upholstery. So the old upholstery, when we bought the boat, was 12 years old and it was in okay condition, but not in the colors we liked. And we thought, look, we're going to do this, let's do it properly. And we have done new upholstery throughout the whole boat. Right, so we've got new fabric on the sofa in the master room, in the lounge. We've got sun protection. So behind me here, we've got this mesh that's coming. They're still making it to go all the way around. We've got the winter covers. We replaced a few panels. We kept those. But a few of the clear panels had gone not so clear, have been a bit yellowy. So we replaced those. Around the helm, we've got new clears and new sun mesh protection. We've got a new lazy bag for the mainsail. They throw in some fender covers for us, as you can see in the photos. We've got some winch covers. We've got a new helm cover. And on the top here, where next to the trampoline, we put this huge seating, cushioning area in. So that's looking really nice. We have done a number of other things on the boat, all right, and the list is here. So the Spinlock life jackets, no compromise on there. I used them when I did the Clip Around the World race and they were excellent. Luckily, I never had to actually use it, but they're nice and easy to put on and don't get in the way of things. So bought the family some Spinlock inflatable life jackets with the harness release systems on, etc. Had to fit out the boat. Look, we came across with suitcases. We didn't have anything for the kitchens, so we had to do that. We got some bosun headsets so that when we're anchoring or coming into a dock, we can communicate, all right, through the headsets. Some people call them marriage shavers, just so you don't have to shout across the boat. We've used them a couple of times, and so far they've been absolutely excellent. We do need to buy one more pair because my son does not have a pair, and it was interesting communicating, my wife and I, but my son wasn't involved in the conversation, so he felt left out and couldn't really help. So absolutely buy another pair there. Some spare fuel tanks, EPIRB, again, no compromise, must have one of those on board. Unfortunately, one of the toilets has broken in the master room, so we need to just buy a new macerator. Bought two, one spare because I'm sure another one's going to go at some stage. Some hatch glass, etc. So a number of other smaller things, VHF radios, etc. So above the water, 43, 45,000, somewhere around there. So quite a bit of money, quite a few lessons. So the lessons here, I think I always ask about hidden or extra costs up front. All right, when we went into the dry dock, we didn't have the luxury. We came in as a survey. We were going to go back in the water an hour later. We ended up being there for 4 months. All right, so things like flushing the engines. They would clean the boat for us without asking, which is great, but just be aware that there are sometimes hidden costs. If you ask for something, all right, be cautious that you may get billed for it. All right, I ask, can you tell me what my running rigging measurements are? All right, and 6 or 8 hours of work later, which was 700 euros or something. I got my measurements, which is great. They're very accurate, but that's not exactly what I needed. So just be cautious on that, asking for the smaller things. I was very surprised about the cost of some things. All right, boat parts, they're always more expensive than you think. All right, so just be aware of that if you're refitting a boat. Add a buffer in. We went miles over our budget for this refit, but the boat's looking in new condition nearly. Yeah, lock in the scope and pricing before going onto dry dock is the other one. Right, they say we didn't. All right, so the pricing changed throughout as they found different things. We were not there to monitor it, and we got a bit of a bill shock at the end. They did a great job, but it was probably 40 to 60% more the bill than I expected. So some lessons we've learned and are learning along the way, more every day, and couple of things we need to get done, and I'll do some videos on these in the future as we do them. The running rigging, so these are all the ropes for the sailing, need to get changed. A lot of them are quite old, all right, and again, no compromise. You've got to have ropes that are up to the task. New standing rigging, so how it works, holds up the mast. All right, so we need to take the mast out, change all the metal. We did get a quote when we were at the dry dock to do this. People from another country were going to fly in and do it, and it was going to be ridiculous price. I forget what it was. It was going to be, I reckon, close to 50,000 euros by the time we'd finished with that. So we didn't do it. We now have the luxury of picking where we want to go, agreeing up front on the price, and then we'll take the mast off, change all the rigging, and it'll be a great opportunity at that stage to look at what else is in the mast, the electrics, etc., and potentially change some of that. I need to look at the Code Zero or Slash Jenica. All right, that's in a bag. It's got a couple of rips in it, and I want to put that on the furler at the front. And I need to get a life raft. The life raft for this boat, there's a long story there, but we don't have one. So I need to get one of those quite quickly. So I hope you enjoyed it. More videos to come in the future. Should get one out in a couple of weeks about some of the other stuff I've been working on now the boat's in the water. And probably in 3 or 4 weeks' time, we're going to leave Montenegro and likely head up to Croatia and start cruising around before the summer season. So hopefully have some of the anchorages to ourselves for a while. So subscribe and stay tuned.